Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio. I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. And when I started this show in 2008, I was on a mission to promote women-owned businesses and help women succeed by providing resources and valuable tips from other women and men, small business owners. In each interview, my guests speak openly about their triumphs, the scary times, and tough decisions they have to make along the way. Women Entrepreneurs Radio is about showing women how to harness their natural strengths to achieve success on their own terms. Hi everyone, welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey, and I'm really glad you could join us today. You're listening to this show on Podomatic. You can also listen to it on iTunes, and also the show's now on other platforms like Spotify and iHeartRadio. So you can either go to those platforms and search for Women Entrepreneurs Radio, or you can go to womenentrepreneursecret.com, and there you will see under the menu, podcasts, and you click there and you could see the various links to get you to where the show is on different platforms. And also you can come there if you want to read different posts of interest to women entrepreneurs, or if you would also like to submit a post, there's also information there about guest posting. And I'll also ask, if you are listening on iTunes, particularly if you enjoy what you're hearing, please leave a review. 5 stars is great, and that will help the show to be found by more listeners. And also, you can come to my website, thebaileycoach.com, and find out more about my coaching for people who want to write and publish a book. And you find also other blog posts there that I have about entrepreneurship and various other related topics. And you can come to my fiction site, which is brightstreetbooks.com, and you can find out more about all of my fiction books and stories. So I hope that you'll stop by there as well and check that out. So we're going to get started with the show today, and Julie Barnes is a returning guest, and she's also been someone who I've known since this podcast started. Actually, that's been a little over 10 years now, so I was really glad to to have her to come back as a guest to share what she has going on right now. And her company is Your Story Gold. And Julie helps entrepreneurs and small business owners command top dollars using their story gold. So we're going to find out more about that. So welcome back to the show, Julie.
Hey, Deb. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, it's been just, a long time since
I know.
we were kind of talking about that. It's just kind of cool that we've been in touch, and there's always so many changes going on with people.
The evolution of entrepreneurship, right?
Right. There's always something else. There's always something that you're doing, and I think that it's really, really exciting. But if you could share a little bit about this company that you're working on right now, and why you decided to start something like that.
Well, I started the company. I started writing about 10 years ago, and I was always fascinated by the stories of entrepreneurs. I love hearing their why story, why they started their business, the ups and downs as well. And I noticed when I started going out to networking events, as my business has evolved, people would stand up and just introduce themselves with their first name or last name, and just either the industry they're in or their business name, and sit down. And I like to call that the sea of sameness. We all sound alike and look alike when we do that. And then after the meeting, when I would go converse with some of the people, I would hear such amazing stories as to why they started their business. And I just thought to myself, why aren't they sharing these pieces of their stories in their elevator pitches and things like that? Because if I knew this certain aspect about them, then I would want to connect with them and do business because, you know, when you go to a chamber event, for example, there can be multiple web designers, multiple, you know, direct salespeople, you know, as an example. So, but when we hear the personal stories as to why they're doing their business and how that, you know, interacts, and it makes us, you know, connect with them on a deeper level and see them as a real person and, you know, want to do business with them. So and that's how I came up with Your Story Gold, because your story is literally the gold that makes you unique. It sets you apart, and no one has your story, your background, your why. And so when you use your story gold, you have no competition.
Wow, that's a great way to put it, actually. Yeah, when you think about it, it really does. And it's really important to note this right now, because I'm sure that you know, as long as you've been in business, that you've seen, you know, a lot of these top people, gurus, come and they go. And they're a lot of times telling people, well, you know, you can do X, Y, and Z to have a business, and here are my steps, and this and that. And it seems like a lot of times that, you know I'd fall into that trap where we end up just copying what someone else is doing. And then you end up just being like that person.
Right. And you fall into the sea of sameness. You look alike and you sound alike.
Yeah. And it's nothing to really separate you from anyone else doing the same thing. What would you say makes a great story?
A great story has ups and downs. So when I work with a client, I utilize a 3-point story arc. So you're a writer, so you understand the story arc. You know, everyone loves the hero's journey. So I teach people how to, you know, incorporate their pain points so that they hit with a client, how they work with a client and the results they get, and how that's telling a mini story. And so when you're out networking and you use your elevator pitch, for example, you should be telling a mini story that really hooks and engages your target audience, and also sets you apart from anyone else sitting in the room that's in the same industry you are, and, you know, or doing the same thing or something similar. That's true.
Yeah, the story arc is definitely yeah, definitely something I'm very familiar with from the fiction world, and a lot of people are told that they really have to hook their reader pretty much right away.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, they have to hook the reader, and then you have to take your character through a journey so they get to that point where you can see their progression. And
and you can do that, believe it or not, in an elevator pitch.
Oh, wow.
By using, you know.
Yeah, because so many of them are really not too good.
No. Or you hear the people that stand up and kind of, you know, puke this whole bunch of crap out, and then you're wondering, what do they do? You know?
Yeah. A lot of times it happens, you know, when you're in a meeting and people are saying those things, and then sometimes you're just kind of tuning out.
Exactly. And that's what our brain does. When we hear the same words over and over again, our brain tunes out, where you can leave a meeting or a presentation, and it can feel like that you haven't connected or learned anything because your brain just kind of checked out on you.
Yeah, that does happen, those kind of things. And then, you forget who said what.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, what did they
So
do?
it's not Alzheimer's. It's just that or sometimes we think, oh, we're getting older, maybe, you know, but that's how our brain works. You know, we kind of tune out to things that we hear over and over again.
Right. And that's an excellent point too, because it's the sameness, day after day of people, particularly if they're not really in environments where they're always getting new things going on, and they're just doing the same routine day after day after day. And you know, I'm sure that happens to people that may be retired and maybe not really doing some other things and challenging themselves or whatever. Or even if you're just in a routine, you don't necessarily have to be older. It's just like you're not doing anything different.
And that can be true in business too, because, you know, if you think about it, a lot of people will go to the same chamber event or the same 4 or 5 networking meetings a month, and they kind of get in this rut, so to speak, where They don't want to step out of the box and try something new, which is one thing I try to inspire people to do, to go out to a new event, try out your sparkly new elevator pitch. But then again, so you're going to the same events, you're hearing the same introductions done in the same way over and over again. So it's really important to be able to use, different story elements into your story, your bio, your pitch, or however you want to work it.
Yeah. And again, that ties in with fiction as well, because a lot of people, if they are pitching an editor or an agent, they have to make that story sound interesting, because, there really isn't anything original, quote unquote, under the sun. We may all be coaches of a certain type, but it's what are you, like you said, what are you personally bringing to the table that's going to make that
right.
So what are like 3 story strategies that business owners can use?
The first strategy I share is learning from loss. So this is good for coaches or anyone in that type of industry. And this really allows, your audience or your target market to see you as a real human, especially when you share the ups and downs you've been through. It could be your most vulnerable moment in life. Everything like that we learn lessons from, how we overcame it, how we persevered. So those are things that are great lessons, and that could be, used in the coaching business I like to call that your 2-step story. So as long as you're 2 steps in front of the client that you're trying to help, you can really powerfully help someone with your story and what you've been through in life. So the first one is learning from loss. The second one is what I like to call the call to adventure story. So most of us are in our everyday life where we kind of do the same thing over and over. And, some people might get something dropped in their lap or a cool opportunity where they say yes to it, and it kind of transforms their whole life, their business. And I like to share my own call to adventure story when me and my hubby traveled full time and lived full time in an RV for 2 years, and went from East Coast to the West Coast, and saw all kinds of interesting places, different cultures, different food. So there are many things I can do from that time on the road, whether it's from teaching people how to live full time in an RV, because interestingly enough, the biggest question I got all the time was not what cool place did you go to, but how do you get your mail? That just always blew me away. That can be used for travel writing as well. So there's all kinds of things that, people could be doing, because if you think about it, how many times in our when we worked a regular job or whatever that might be, how, we kind of looked at the clock every day and we just kind of felt like our soul was being sucked out. And, a lot of people think that their stories aren't exciting or anything interesting about them, but they are. And if you have a call to adventure story, I guarantee you that there's someone sitting in a cubicle right now that would love to learn how to do what you did and how you transform your life by saying yes to a call to adventure story. And then the third one is beginning with a lesson. So this is what I like to call your Oprah aha moment. So this can be like your moment of truth story. Again, you're always learning lessons from it. It could be your why story. Why did you start your business? Maybe for some women, it's to have control over their time. Maybe it's so they don't have an income cap. And then you can always dig deeper because, as you know, there's always a why underneath the why we're doing something. So you can really dig deep to really connect with your niche audience or your target market by begin with a lesson story. So those are my top 3 strategies.
Those are really great ideas, and definitely, the call to adventure is certainly something that is used in fiction all the time.
Right. It's true. Exactly.
Yeah. So that is really perfect, and I can definitely see that because in fiction it's like you ground the character in the normal world that they call it, and then you have this incident or something happens that now they have the call to adventure to leave their normal world,
right,
and go to this other thing. And that really is the same thing that a business owner would be describing to prospects. And stories are so important. It's how people take in information. That they're very powerful, and probably more so than I think the average person realizes
Right.
that they are.
And it could be a story, like maybe you started a mechanic shop and you were a kid that, raced on cars with your grandpa, and that always stuck with you. And, that was your dream to, to start a business like that to honor your grandfather. Mm-hmm. So stories like that, really show you as a human, that connect with your target audience. And, it's really meaningful to do business with someone like that who, it's honoring a grandparent or something like that, or a special person in their life. And without sharing that story, no one would ever know that. So
that's a great point. And yeah, I like what you're saying about that too, because I kind of find that right now anyway, when I'm online and maybe following other entrepreneurs, some of them will share those stories that you can connect with, because that's what's going to draw you in, to make that connection. But then some of them seem to talk about, well, here I am on the beach, and here I am on vacation, here I am on the trip, and I'm making all this money.
Right. Yeah. That doesn't connect too well. We want to know how you got there.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Right. I know you've seen that all over. I definitely know I have, but it's, that kind of thing. I'm like, because after a while, we've seen it so much, and you're like, but who are you, and what are you about, and what else is going on with you besides this story that every other person's telling? I can't tell you guys apart because I hear the same thing. You're right. Yeah, and you could see the reaction to it. That may very well be what they're doing, but you don't feel that real connection because they're not really telling you anything. They're kind of giving this window.
Right.
Exactly.
And they're not really showing who they are to connect.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you really need to do that. So, is that what you would do? You're saying to have your story stick in the minds of clients. Is that how you do it, to just make that connection with your client and let them know that, I've been through this and now this is where I am?
Right. So how you tell the story really depends on, what your goal is with the story. So you always want to start out by asking yourself, why are you telling that particular story? Because we all have many stories that we could be telling, but using in business, what story do we want to use to connect with our particular business goals and our target audience? So that's very important. And then you always want to have a clear theme too. Are you trying to teach a lesson, or are you sharing an idea? So TED Talks are a great idea of someone using their story to open people's minds to a new way of thinking or a new idea. So those are a couple of tips I always share with people.
Yeah, that's a great point, as far as if you are sharing ideas or what exactly is the point. What are you trying to convey, to your listeners?
Right.
And what are you trying to do? What's your objective really? So that makes all the difference. Yeah, and how you're presenting and what you're presenting.
And the other interesting piece is how your brain reacts when listening to a story. So that really helps when you're sharing a good story that has some good ups and downs. The brain starts to change dramatically on story. So I always tell people, if you got extra 5 or 10 minutes, Google the brain on story, because it's really fascinating how it reacts. And that's why you remember a story over boring things like statistics.
It does make a difference as to how people process information. And of course, when we see that in advertising all the time, where they're telling these stories about products that you're like, oh, why are you telling me all this about fabric softener? What?
Right. But that's what draws us in, It's the story behind, And I do get a question a lot too, is why do people not tell their story? And, a lot of people think they don't have an interesting story, or there's, nothing exciting about their life, because, we all just go about our life. We're just living, doing our own thing, and we think there's nothing exciting about it. But I guarantee that everyone has multiple stories they could be telling that really would connect with people. The other reason is a lot of people, have stories where there's some type of shame or embarrassment attached to that story, so they don't want to tell it. But especially a lot of coaches and the people in the coaching industries have, pretty powerful stories like that. And I always tell people that this is a story that can make the biggest impact in the world. So this is a story that you need to be telling with a reminder that there are people that will love your message and there's people that won't like your message. But then there's that one person in the audience that day that needs to hear your message that you will never know how it transformed their life for the better. Right. So that one person is why you tell your story.
That, again, tying it back to fiction in particular, it's very much when you're putting your character in a position of being vulnerable, learning something, opening up in some way is where the reader is going to make that connection to them.
Exactly.
And start to care about what they're doing, and then that's the thing that's going to keep them reading, and identifying with the character and really be interested in what happens to them.
And then they start to see themselves in your stories.
Right.
As well.
That's
and then
true.
They start to connect and know that you can help them because you have moved forward from what you've been through, and you would probably be the right person to help them through going through that same obstacle.
Right. They could see that, oh, okay, you've had these experiences. You know what I'm going through, or I could see that you've overcome certain things that I may be going through. So that really forms a connection.
Right, exactly.
There. Yeah, and that's very powerful when someone's going to make a commitment, financially particularly, with someone, and they want to feel that you're the right person.
And that's where sharing your story is so important.
Because you could see how that all comes together. So is that why telling your story creates trust and credibility?
It does. It helps you connect with your target audience. It shows you as a real person. It shows what you've been through and how you overcame it and how you courageously did that. So those are important pieces in connecting with your target audience and helping to build trust because they see you as a real human, not just some, fictional person, so to speak. Because we all see the glossy, Instagram lives and all that, fun stuff. But we don't see a lot of what goes on behind the scenes to create all those. So when you share your story, that's what really connects with people.
Yeah, actually, someone who was on the show, I believe last year, she wasn't in business with her husband, but that pretty much is part of her story and her business and how they were supporting each other emotionally and at times financially and that kind of thing. And then I recently saw that she was sending an email about getting a divorce.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my goodness, I really don't know her, quote unquote. We just had a conversation in the interview, but I could almost feel like I could feel her, I guess you could say, pain or discomfort because that's how she's presented her story. Now she's kind of has to kind of explain this part of her life and how she's regrouping what she's doing and having to manage, okay, how do I put this out here in a way that I still have privacy, but she wants to share it.
And there are ways to share, your story with different points and things like that to get your story, your powerful story across without puking your whole story, so to speak.
Right.
There are some things you may not want to share, but and you don't have to, to connect with your target audience.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, because I think sometimes for some people who maybe, say, blogging about certain aspects of their life or have a lifestyle business where whatever's going on in their family life is a part of how they're presenting themselves. And then if something like that happens or some loss, then it's like, wow, how much of this do I really have to share with people and how do I share it? Yeah. But yeah, what you're saying about Instagram, sometimes you can really forget that these are all ways that people are presenting themselves, not necessarily how they're living.
Exactly. That's the key word. Right.
It might not be, might not be the way that they are in life. So,
Right. Have to swipe by it.
yeah. So, be careful. How many things you're following out there thinking that this person's life is what I need to have. And then you find out there's something else going on underneath all that they weren't really honestly sharing what they were, or they were just creating more of an image of who they were.
And it's interesting, just like the 10 years that we've known each other, I think they had Facebook when we first met, but how everything has evolved in such a quick and massive way, it seems like.
Yeah.
With different ways to tell your story, know.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways now.
And just now it just seems it's a lot of visuals, and it's very easy for the visual not to tell the story.
Right.
Of really who you are. But then there's some people who are very candid about themselves and what they're doing, and some of it is really very funny. There was a guy's Instagram post that I saw on Twitter, somebody shared it, and he, I think he's a comedian, which helps his brand, but he's always trying to find his dog who's always running away to go on dates. I'll put it that way.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah, it's his little dog.
That is an interesting story.
He's always out there dating. So the last video I saw, he found, I guess he found the dog saw him and started running.
So he's telling a story in a way that makes you want to come back to find out, did the dog come home, or what's going on with the dog? So.
Well, he was following it in the car.
That's too funny.
It was hilarious. I mean, it was hilarious. So I don't know this person, but now I'm kind of like, wow, what else are you doing? And that may not be something that happens every day, but it was just so funny. And I guess real. I don't have a dog, but it was just funny the way he reacted, the way the dog reacted to him. And it was just a funny moment that made you just laugh. And now there's a connection there because of that little story that happened that drew me in because it was just so funny. And, so you just never know what you're saying, how you're sharing your story is going to make a connection with someone, particularly as a comedian. I'm sure that is very helpful for him to do that because now, of course, the whole thing was funny. So, oh, wow, great. You're a comedian. You're telling a story, but also telling stories about your real life. That's obviously not made up based on the dog's reaction to
Right.
Seeing him, seeing him looking for him, and the dog's like, okay, time to go. It's like,
peace out, right?
Right. That's just what he did. So it's that kind of thing. Is what you're saying is being authentic and really just knowing, what you're putting out there as well. What you're saying, what are you trying to say, your why, and all that good stuff it really can be so important in a climate where so many people are out here. And, a lot of them are copying other people or they're just putting anything out there to see what sticks. And how you just telling your own story in a certain way is really going to make you stand out. It's
and an important piece too is not only your elevator pitch, but you want to make sure your professional bio is on point too, because so many people, you'd be surprised how many business owners do not have a bio. And if you get asked to speak on a panel or present, you want to make sure you have a bio. In the past, I've served on different committees, event committees, where I would kind of wrangle the speakers. And it was interesting to hear how many would go, oh, just, get something off my website, or they would hastily put something together. But if you have an audience of 200 to 1,000 people, you want your bio to tell who you are, who your target market is, the pain point, and who you help. And also accomplishments, or I like to call them street cred. This helps to really connect. This helps to really help you edify what you're doing so you can command top dollar in what you're doing. one thing that I see a lot when I work with men as opposed to women is, men have no problem shouting from the mountaintop all their accomplishments or, what they've done in their career. Whereas women, you really have to pull it out of them, And so one thing I always share with women is do not be afraid to share your accomplishments, because this really helps, edify what you're doing. And then also, it really helps your clients see how you can help them with their accomplishments. So that's really important as well. And then I always like to have people share some interesting facts about themselves in their bio, because it may be they're down to 2 business coaches that they're looking at, where but one has an interesting fact where they go mountain biking, on the weekend. Well, you might like mountain biking too, so it might be the interesting fact that connects that target or that lead to reach out to you to find out more about your services. And it also, again, shows you as a real human.
Yes.
So that's why it's so important to really have your professional bio on point too.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because you're right. A lot of people don't always have those things together, particularly if they're really just starting out to reach out to media and see about getting coverage or just being interviewed. Like what we're doing, a lot of times people don't really have it together in a way that really says anything, or maybe they don't have their points together as to what they want to cover and how they want to cover and how they want to get out there and show who they are.
Right. It really is, important, because I've been at events myself where the announcer will introduce the speaker and say, "Oh, I didn't get your bio, and so I just put something together or got this off your website." Yeah, never do that. If you get asked to speak or present, always make sure you have your bio ready to go, because you never know who's sitting in the audience either. What that opportunity might lead to another opportunity. So that's your one chance to get, and it's free press, free visibility. So just small things like that.
Yeah, that's true. You never know. And you really don't want to miss out on those little things that can make all the difference in you marketing and letting people know who you are, and people pick up something and see your bio or a way to contact you. And you just never know. You can't assume that, oh, this doesn't matter, or maybe that you think this isn't important enough, or you'll get to it and then you don't really have your things together. And
right.
That's not really going to help you in the long run. So,
exactly.
Yeah, you have to take advantage of all of the things there that can benefit you, because that can really be your chance to be found by someone that you never even thought about. But,
right.
You didn't take that extra step to have everything together in a way that people can find you. And, in some cases people don't put their contact information, or they'll send something and not put their website. And it's like, well, wouldn't that be, you should just have something together where people can learn more about you or check you out or whatever you may be querying about. And then they don't really think to do that. So, yeah, the whole preparation thing is key. Definitely. So, Julie, please share where everyone can find out more about you.
Awesome. Okay, they can find me at yourstorygold.com. Then I'm on Instagram at yourstorygold and Facebook yourstorygold. And then my personal Instagram is I am Julie Barnes, where you'll see me playing the drums I live up here in Sacramento, Northern California, so you'll see me out in the community doing stuff. And, my weekend adventures around Northern California. Yes.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That definitely sounds like fun. So yeah, I hope everybody will take advantage of that and check it out, and learn more about how you can get out there and get your story together and help you to get more business. So, Julie, this time has gone by really fast. It's only
it has. I
like
know.
we just started.
Just like the 10 years we've known each other.
Right.
Right.
I know, right? It's like, how did that happen?
Right. Right.
It's amazing. Yeah, time just goes by. It goes by so fast. But Julie, do you have any like final thoughts that you could share, or anything that you want to mention?
Yes, I'll just give a few tips on where you can share your story once you have your core story that you want to be sharing.
Sure.
Your website about page. We already spoke about your professional bio. Media, for those that want to pitch the media, having a great story. Speeches, if you like to get out on the speaking circuit, if you have a great story to tell, that's a great way to share it. Your resumes as well. Believe it or not, resumes are telling a story. Is it telling the right story to land you the position or the career that you want? Mm-hmm. And video scripts. And of course, book manuscripts for those that want to write a book. And the other one right now is podcasting, of course. So if you have a great story, podcasts are always looking for guests that have a great story to share. So that's another way you can be sharing your story.
That's true. There's a lot of variety.
There is.
Yeah, that people can really take advantage of. It's really good. So there's one way that doesn't work for you, then there's another way that you can try and just gotta get out there and share.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, that's terrific though. But well, definitely, Julie, I'm sure that we will be doing this again and sooner than from the last time you were.
Exactly. Well, thanks for having me. It's been so much fun, Deb.
Yes, and it won't be as long as last time. But as Julie and I were talking before, we're hoping maybe to do some stuff together later on. So if so, you will definitely hear more about that on the future shows or on womenentrepreneurssecrets.com. And also, Julie has several blog posts out there about communication.
I do.
Yeah, so you can query her name, Julie Barnes, and read some of the things that she has contributed over the years, and learns from that, as well as visiting Julie's website and learning more about her services. And I really hope that you will do that. So once again, I'm so glad that we could connect. Julie's really happy about that. And thanks so much for joining me today. All
right. Thank you for having me.
So everyone, I know you enjoyed it. I always say that, but I know you enjoyed it. So make sure to stop by Julie's site and also that you share this information, share this podcast with others in your network and have them also listen in. And so once again, to Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you again next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining us. You can also join in the conversation on Facebook.com/Women Entrepreneurs and on the website, WomenEntrepreneursSecrets.com. And don't forget to listen in on dbcoach.podomatic.com and on iTunes.